Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Invoking the blessings of Lord Almighty, I begin the one-day national seminar on refugee writings, homeland, exile, subjectivity, jointly organized by the Department of English, Shift 1, Shift 2, and the Postgraduate Department of English of our college, duly blossoms. We commence the national seminar with prayer by a Yuzuddin of third year BSc Microbiology. Please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. للفقراء المهاجرين الذين أخرجوا من ديارهم وأموالهم يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا وينصرون الله ورسوله أولئك هم الصادقون. والذين تبوأوا الدار والإيمان من قبلهم يحبون من هاجر إليهم ولا يجدون في صدورهم حاجة مما أوتوا ويؤثرون على أنفسهم ولو كان بهم خصاصة ومن يوق شح نفسه فأولئك هم المفلحون. English translation. To the poor refugees who were driven out of their homes and their possessions as they sought the favor of Allah and His approval, and came to the aid of Allah and His Messenger, these are the sincere. And those who before them had settled in the homeland and had accepted faith, they love those who emigrated to them and find no hesitation in their hearts in helping them. They give them priority over themselves, even if they themselves are needy. Whoever is protected from his natural greed, it is they who are the successful. Chapter 59, verses 8 and 9. தமிழ் மொழியாக்கம். எவர்கள் தம் வீடுகளையும் தம் சொத்துகளையும் விட்டு அல்லாஹ்வின் அருளையும் அவன் திருப்பொருத்தத்தையும் தேடியவர்களாக வெளியேற்றப்பட்டனரோ, அந்த நாடு துறந்து வந்த ஏழைகளுக்கும் அப்பொருளில் பங்குண்டு. அல்லாஹுக்கும் அவன் தூதருக்கும் உதவி செய்து கொண்டிருக்கின்றனர், அவர்கள்தாம் உண்மையாளர்கள். இன்னும் சிலருக்கும் இதில் பங்குண்டு. அவர்கள் நாடு துறந்து வந்தவர்களுக்கு முன்னரே மதினாவில் நம்பிக்கை கொண்டு வீட்டை அமைத்து கொண்டவர்கள். அவர்கள் நாடு துறந்து தங்களிடம் குடியேறி வந்தவர்களை நேசிக்கின்றனர். அன்றியும் அவ்வாறு குடியேறி வந்தவர்களுக்கு கொடுக்கப்பட்டதிலிருந்து தங்கள் நெஞ்சங்களில் தேவைப்பட மாட்டார்கள். மேலும் தங்களுக்கு தேவையிருந்த போதிலும் தங்களை விட அவர்களே உதவி பெறுவதற்கு தக்கவர்களாக தேர்ந்தெடுத்து கொள்வார்கள். இவ்வாறு எவர்கள் உள்ளத்தின் உலோபத்தனத்திலிருந்து காக்கப்பட்டார்களோ அத்தகையவர்கள்தான் வெற்றி பெற்றவர்கள் ஆவார்கள். அல் குர்ஆன் 59 வசனங்கள் 8 மற்றும் 9. அஸ்ஸலாமு அலைக்கும்.
Thank you so much, Yuzuddin, for your scintillating voice and most appropriate bilingual translation of the Quranic verses. Thank you. Now it's time for Tamil Thai Valthu. Let's all stand up for the Tamil Thai Valthu song. To recite the Tamil Thai Valthu, I call upon a Hairunisha of 2nd MA English and Abhinay of 2nd MA English team, please.
நீராரும் கடலொடுத்த நிலமடைந்த கெழிலொழுகும் சீராரும் வதனமென திகழ் பரத கண்டமிதில் தெக்கணமும் அது சிறந்த திராவிடன திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு திரை நுதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திரும்பி எந்த செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே.
Thank you, Hairunsa and Abhinaya team, for your wonderful reciting of the Tamil Thai Valthu. Now, we duly begin. The world is at stake. The state is at stake. Many people like us are helpless, hopeless. At this juncture, in order to realize the talk of the day, the Department of English is organizing a one-day national seminar on refugee writing. To introduce the theme, here comes Dr. s.muthamil, the head of the Department of English and the convener of this national seminar. Introducing the theme, please sir.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of the Almighty, the Most High, the Most Forgiving. Respected dignitaries on the dais, faculty, heads of the departments, deans of various portfolios, students, friends, a very pleasant good morning to one and all. Thank you. I deem it a great privilege and pleasure to introduce the theme of the seminar and also to extend a cordial welcome to one and all who are contributing to the success of this one-day national seminar on refugee writings. To begin with, I would like to highlight some credentials briefly about the Department of English. English department was upgraded as a research center when our formerly mentor and head of the department, Dr. s.muthamil, was heading the department. Sir got his retirement in 2015. After his retirement, I took charge of the department as head of the department. The research center is very vibrant under the guidance of the research head Dr. Kanna Muthaya, assistant professor and deputy controller of examination of our college. Our research scholars have got 23 lakh rupees, 23 lakh as grant in aid from the UGC and the state government of Tamil Nadu under various scholarship schemes. The first JRF fellow to join under the guidance of Dr. Yunus was Siddiq, who is taking his YOC examination on 25th of this month. The department was twice sanctioned rupees 8 lakh rupee, 16 lakh rupee to offer remedial coaching in English under UGC 11th and 12th plans. About 20 research scholars are doing their research under the 5 supervisors of our department. And on this occasion, I would like to extend my gratitude to our Honorable Secretary, President and Treasurer and the executive members for generously contributing 45 lakh to modernize the language laboratory of our college. It is put to optimum use by the Department of Computer Science, by the Department of Commerce, Information Technology, Department of Mathematics, Department of Tamil, and it is fully utilized by the Department of English to offer computer assisted language courses, listening and speaking. The department has organized so far 10 national seminars on various themes. We started first with the translation, literary translation in 2009, English language teaching in 2010, Indian writing in English in 2011, English literature teaching in 2012, travel writing through the ages in 2014, print and electronic media in 2015, biographies in English in 2016, 21st century fiction in 2017, comparative literature, theory and praxis in 2018, drama as a multimedia narrative in 2018, theories and world making in 2020, publishing and the profession in 2021, person and identity through language and literature in 2022. So, seminar we are hosting on the theme Refugee Writings, Homeland, Exile and Subjectivity. First of all, I would like to thank the co-convener of this seminar, Dr. Khalil Ahmed, for having suggested the theme when we had the discussion at the department. He recommended the theme, suggested the theme to the department after listening a scintillating, inspiring lecture given by Dr. Bhubadi at his refresher course he attended at Pondicherry University. Sir Khalil was inspired by the lecture given by Dr. Bhubadi, and he suggested the topic to the department, and it was welcomed by the department. Members wanted to host a seminar on the theme refugee writings. The topic is very relevant today. Friends and faculty, we are living in a floating world with mixed realities due to travel and technology. In the book titled Global Soul, written by Picoyer, he starts like this, I quote, we are living in the century of movements due to mass migration and increased mobility. Borders have become porous. He says borders have become porous and homes have become portable. Anyone can carry homes. He says, I can carry my home like a shoulder bag. Sky may be my home. Even my gate in my home can be a home. So the concept of home, the concept of self, the concept of identity are changing and changeable. Even homes are changeable, our identities are changeable, our self is flexible and accommodative and can be changed as we like. So with the increasing number of exiles and refugees worldwide, identities are changing, identities can be changeable, and there are writers, there are vibrant writers, acclaimed, elegant, seasoned writers, refugee, who write on refugee literature, transcend some idiosyncrasies, transcend some set norms, convictions and conventions, and they claim that we belong to the global world and we belong to the entire community, entire world and the entire community. They rise above labels, they rise above categories, they rise above race and say, we are the global souls, I quote, with 2 legs. Picoyer in one of the travel writing, he says, I am a global soul with 2 legs. Such are the interesting writers who highlight on and who deliberate on the migrants and their movements and bringing the positive sides of travel and technology. So I believe that the topic is very relevant, and we are witnessing the crisis worldwide, the refugee crisis worldwide. Here are the distinguished resource persons to talk on so much so much about the crisis, and they will offer solutions to overcome the issues worldwide. On behalf of the Department of English, I am happy to extend a very cordial welcome to our Honorable Executive Member, Janav Muhammad, MKM Muhammad Nazar sir. Welcome sir. I am happy to welcome in absentia LKM Muhammad Nawab Hussain sir. Sir will join us shortly. And it's my pleasure to extend a very cordial welcome to our principal and vice principal for their continuous support to the department. They are uplifting the department. Whenever we approach the principal and the vice principal, they were very quick to take decisions, and they are supporting the department generously. On behalf of the organizing committee, I extend a cordial welcome to our principal, Dr. S.M. Abdul Kadir, and our vice principal, Dr. S.M.A. Sayyid Muhammad Khaja. Welcome, sirs. It's my pleasure to extend a very cordial welcome in absentia to our former mentor and our guru, Dr. Nematullah sir. Sir will join us very shortly. And our mentor, Dr. A. Abdul Kadir, formerly professor of English of our department. He served in the department for 30 plus years. Then he moved to Saudi Arabia, and he served there for a long time. After there, he returned to our college and served as a director of self-financing courses. Sir is a voracious reader. We have a good model in him to follow. He's reading a lot of books. He is listing a lot of books, and he is attending the Hindu festival every year. This year also he invited me, sir. Sir invited me to take part in the Hindu festival, Hindu literary festival hosted by the Hindu newspaper in Chennai. I couldn't join him. Sir is attending every session, and he brings the highlights of the talks, interactions he had with some resource persons there, with the writers, with food, specialists there. So he is giving us, he is educating and enlightening us. On behalf of the organizing committee, I extend a very cordial welcome to you, sir. Welcome. I am extremely happy to welcome our former control of examination, Dr. A.H. Muhammad Amin sir, in absentia. Sir said he will join the meeting shortly, and we are happy to extend a very cordial welcome to our former professor of history, Dr. Shahida Begum. Madam is a very great donor. He is supporting the poor students of our college to pay their tuition fee and to support them financially. On behalf of the organizing committee, I extend a very cordial welcome to Madam Shahida. And we are very happy to welcome in absentia Dr. Vedamuthu, Professor of English of Manomaniyam Sundara University, and Dr. Ranjit, who are very close friends of our distinguished chief guest, Dr. Kishoram from Kerala. On behalf of the organizing committee, I extend a cordial welcome to them. I am happy to welcome the control of examination of our college, Dr. Siti Jamila, the senior faculty and head of the Department of Computer Science, Dr. Shahul Hamid, the Dean of Sciences, Dr. Muhammad Roshan, who is closely associating with me to run the Deanery of Academics, the Dean of Research and Development, Dr. Sheikh Muhyiddin Badusha, the Dean of Center for Digital Learning, Dr. Sayyid Al Fatima, the Dean of Sports, Dr. Sultana Barwin, Dean of Students' Welfare, Dr. A. Hamil. On behalf of the organizing committee, I extend a very cordial welcome to all the deans of our college. இந்த நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு தமிழ் துறையிலிருந்து வருகை தந்து இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை கௌரவித்து கொண்டிருக்கக்கூடிய என்னுடைய அன்பிற்கும் என்னை அரவணைத்து ஆளாக்கி நடத்தி கொண்டிருக்கக்கூடிய எங்களுடைய அன்பு சகோதரர் பேராசிரியர் மகாதேவன் ஐயா அவர்களே இந்த நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு வருக என்று நான் வரவேற்றுக் கொள்வதிலே பெருமையடைகிறேன். இந்த கல்லூரியில் 2002ஆம் ஆண்டு நான் சேர்ந்த பொழுது அவரிடம் ஏற்பட்ட நட்பு இன்றும் அருமையாக தொடர்கிறது. பல தளங்களிலே மகாதேவன் ஐயா அவர்கள் எழுத்தாளராகவும் பேச்சாளராகவும் கவிஞராகவும் அவர்கள் இயங்கிக் கொண்டிருக்கிறார்கள் என்பதை பெருமையுடன் நான் இந்த தருணத்தில் தெரிவித்துக் கொள்ள ஆசைப்படுகிறேன். அதே போன்று எங்களுடன் பயணித்து இன்று ஓய்வு பெற்றிருக்கக்கூடிய எங்களுடைய அன்பு சகோதரர், அன்பு அண்ணன் அய்யூப் கான் சார் அவர்கள் வந்திருக்கிறார்கள் இந்த நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு. அவர்களையும் நான் வருக என்று வரவேற்று தமிழ் துறையிலிருந்து வருகை தந்திருக்கிற அத்தனை பேராசிரியர்களையும் வரவேற்றுக் கொள்வதில் பெருமகிழ்ச்சி அடைகிறேன். I extend a very cordial welcome to IQAC coordinator Dr. A. Syed Muhammad, the associate IQAC coordinator Dr. P. Syed Ali, the ISO coordinator Dr. Anthony Danish, the Barzar of our college Dr. M. Muhammad Siddiq. I am happy to extend a very cordial welcome to the co-convener of this one-day seminar, Dr. S. Khalil Ahmed, who is behind me to carry out all the works relating to the seminar, with the preparation of the brochure, the invitations, fixing the resource persons, inviting them. This morning he went to receive Dr. Bhubadi at 3 o'clock. He started from his home from 2:30. He received the guest from the railway station, accommodated the guest at Afna Park this morning. I am so happy to extend a very cordial welcome to the coordinator, S. Khalil Ahmed. I am happy to extend a cordial welcome to the organizing secretaries and chairpersons, Captain K. Sayyid Ali Badusha, the second member in the Department of English, Dr. Yunus Ahmed Muhammad Sharif, Dr. Abu Kaniba Miran, Head Shift to Unaided Program, Dr. Anita Nyanamuthu, Head of the the PG Department of English, Dr. L. Faustina Leo, Head Shift to in the morning, faculty in charge of various committees, Dr. Kannamutaya, Deputy Controller of Examinations, Khadija Fazila, Zeenat Fakir Albanu, Mrs. Nusrat Begum, Dr. Alice Sophia, Mrs. Selvi, Mr. Dalha, Mrs. Supriya, Anand, Dr. Wajida, Mr. Kurshid, our student, alumnus, Dr. Ashik, Mr. Ashik, Nabisa, and Rizana. On behalf of the organizing committee, we are extending you all a cordial welcome. And we are happy to welcome Ms. Dr. Sumadi and Mrs. Frida Madam to this meeting. The heads of the various departments are here from the department of the senior faculty from the Department of History. Dr. Nazi sir is here. Dr. Badusha sir is here. Afzal sir is here. The senior faculty, Dr. Chinnathambi sir, belonging to the Department of Physics is here. So on behalf of the organizing committee, I extend a cordial welcome to all. I am happy to welcome the PG Department of Zoology, Dr. Delighta Madam, and the head of the Botany Department, Dr. Fatima Madam, to this function. And more importantly, faculty and participants have responded heavily to our invitation. Here are the participants and faculty from Saratakar College, Sri Ramakrishna Mission College, Vellore Institute of Technology, Gandhigram Rural University, Tiruvallur College, APC Mahalakshmi College for Women, Raniyanna College for Women, Manolmaniam Sundaral University, Sriram Nalamani Yadav College, St. John's College, ST Hindu College, Sri Ramasamy Nadu Memorial College, University of Madras, University of Mumbai, Mano College, Sri Ayappa College, St. Jude's College, Farooq College, Savida University, Nurul Islam Center for Higher Education, KCG College of Technology, Dr. Jair Hussain College, Sri Devi Kumari Women's College, JSS Arts College, STC College, and the research scholars from the research centers of St. Xavier's College and St. John's College. And the student participants are also attending the program online. I am happy to extend a very cordial welcome to Dr. Amrita K. Kasturi, Chhattisgarh University, Dr. Lenin from Adityanar College, Dr. Mangair Karasi from ST Hindu College, Dr. Vijala Jabarubi from Raniyanna College, Dr. Ambiha ST Hindu College, Dr. Nishant, my very good friend from VOC College, Thuthukudi, Dr. Shola Madam from Adityanar College, and Dr. Nishant from VOC College. I am so happy that you have made this function a grand one. On behalf of, I am happy to extend my cordial welcome to the Controller of Examinations, Dr. Siti Jamila Madam. On behalf of the organizing committee, I extend the student participants who are belonging to third year class of our department. And also I extend a welcome to Jasmine, my scholar, who is going to take my VIOC, very soon. Dr. Babida is from Nagargoil. I am extending a cordial welcome to you. On behalf of the organizing secretary, on behalf of the convener, on behalf of the department, I extend a very cordial welcome to one and all. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your introduction of that seminar and the all-inclusive welcome address. Thank you. Now, it's time for presidential address. I call upon Lieutenant Dr. S.M. Abdul Qadir, the vibrant principal of our college, presidential address. Please, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, I begin with. Respected the executive committee member of our college, Dr. Mohammad Nasser sir. Respected vice principal. Respected the former director of our college, Dr. A. Abdul Qadir sir. Respected the controller of examinations, Dr. M. Siti Jamila. Respected the head of the Department of English, Dr. S. Muhammad Anif. The head of the PG department, Dr. Anita Nyanamuthu. Head of the research department, Dr. Kanna Mutaya. Dr. Abu Hanifa Miran. The admin heads, the heads of the various faculties, staffs belonging to various faculties from our institutions and from our neighbor institutions. My dear students and the esteemed guest of honor of today's program, those who are going to deliver the keynote address and the plenary session address, Professor Dr. Kishore Ram, the professor from the PG Department of English, NSS College, Pandalam, Pathanamthitta District, Kerala. Dr. Bhubadi, Assistant Professor, Department of English Studies, Central University of Tamil Nadu, Thiruvarur. He is resembling like our former sub-collector, Gokul IAS. Exactly. And Dr. Aparna Ishwaran, Assistant Professor, School of International Relations and Politics, MG University, Kottayam, Kerala. All the co-convener, organizing secretaries and the organizing team of this particular national seminar. First of all, I wish to convey my salams to you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. A pleasant good morning to you all. Exactly, the program is scheduled between the time of 10 and 11 a.m. Okay, I have been given the mic, okay, at exactly 11 a.m. itself. Okay, as the time is running out, we will shortly, okay, finish it off. The one-day national seminar on refugee writings. Sir has listed out the different topic they have selected so far. Nearly, they have conducted 13 national level seminars so far, of which the most impressive one is travel through the ages. Probably it may be the specialization of our head of the department's area, okay, Dr. S. Muhammad Anif sir. Okay, we were so impressed. Recently, I along with our respected Secretary Sir Haji T.S. Fatur Rabbani Sahib visited many countries. Okay, each time, okay, I have noted all the things, some of the interesting things, okay, that was happened. I noted it down in my diary. Okay, our Secretary Sir noticed it. And finally asked, Kathir, என்ன எழுதிட்டு இருக்கீங்க அப்படின்னாரு. உங்களே மாதிரி பூமியை சுற்றி பார்க்கலாம் வாருங்கள் அப்படின்னு எனக்கும் ஒரு புத்தகம் எழுதணும்னு ஒரு ஆசை வந்துச்சு சார்னு சொல்லி செக்ரட்டரிட்ட சொன்னேன். Okay, he felt so much happy. Okay, you can expect that soon the book will be released, okay, on the travel, okay, about our travel to the countries like Thailand, okay, Hong Kong, okay, and other places. Okay, thank you for your motivation, sir, surely. Okay, now the world is under the crisis of refugees. When we visited these countries, particularly Hong Kong, okay, when I produced my passport, okay, I faced a lot of hardships. Though we are migrating from one place to the other place, okay, legally, with legal documents, okay, we are facing lot of problems. Then we cannot imagine the situations of the refugees. In my class, I used to give the example of okay, Sri Lankan Tamil refugees. Though we all belong to the same race, Tamil, எல்லாருமே தமிழ் இனத்தை சேர்ந்தவர்களாக இருந்தாலும், still in Tamil Nadu, in so many places, okay, we are having refugee camp, Sri Lankan Tamil refugee camp. But the point is, we all belong to the same race in their own land. Okay, we are naming them as the Tamil refugee. இதுக்கு மேல ஒரு கொடுமை வேணுமா? Our brothers and our sisters belonging to our own race, okay, we are naming them as the refugees. I used to come across some of the okay, top books, A City of Thorns, okay, and then again that is one book written by, I think, the commissioner of UN High Commission for Refugee. Okay, he clearly stated the difficulty of one girl from Syria. Okay, nearly 100 people from Syria, okay, they took one fishing boat and they tried to move to Europe. Unfortunately, okay, the boat okay, sank. Finally, only 11 people okay, able to survive, of which one was a young girl. Okay, so he narrated, that particular commissioner, he is the commissioner of UN High Commissioner for Refugees. He is narrating all the things, the hardships faced by that particular girl. What are all the difficulties they are facing? Okay, it is one of the beautiful writings. Okay, again, even in the book of written by the Yusuf Malala, she also okay, clearly narrates the thing, what are all the hardships that they are facing. So in today's seminar, okay, we are all going to discuss about what are all the problems okay, that the refugees are facing. Okay, we are going to present it through the writing style in this national seminar. But what is the solution for this particular problem? Okay, that lecture okay, delivered by one professor at Pondicherry University, okay, he impressed so many okay, audience, of which our Dr. Khalil sir is also one. Okay, so he lighted the lamp, okay, he took the light, and now the origin of this particular national seminar is okay, born from okay, the idea thought of Dr. Khalil sir. Okay, surely this seminar will be an eye-opener for so many staff members as well as students who are sitting here. Okay, surely okay, the light will pass on. Surely we can address the problem for this particular solution. Okay, to my idea, resettlement is not at all an ordinary thing. It is a powerful word, resettlement. How we are going to address this point? Okay, it is very, very difficult one. Okay, in the tour la போயிருக்கிறப்ப செக்ரட்டரி சார் என்கிட்ட ஒரு பாயிண்ட்டை வந்து இன்சிஸ்ட் பண்ணாங்க. அந்த பாயிண்ட் அப்போ எனக்கு இது தேவையானு தோணுச்சு. பட் இந்த செமினாரில் வந்து உட்காந்ததுக்கப்புறம் செக்ரட்டரி சார் ஷேர் பண்ண அந்த ஒரு பாயிண்ட்டு கண்டிப்பாக அது ஒன்று தான் சொல்யூஷனாக இருக்க முடியும்னு எனக்கு தோணுச்சு. ஹாங்காங்கில் நாங்கள் அந்த பாஸ்போர்ட்லாம் எடுத்துகிட்டு போகிறப்ப ரொம்ப ஹார்ட்ஷிப்புக்கு உள்ளானோம். பாஸ்போர்ட்டை பார்த்தோன்னே கோ டு தி லாஸ்ட் கவுண்டர் அப்படின்னாங்க. அப்போ தான் நாங்கள் என்னென்னு கேட்டோம், பவர் ஆஃப் பாஸ்போர்ட் அப்படின்னா என்னன்றது அப்போ தான் உணர்ந்துக்கிட்டோம். நாங்கள்லாம் ஒவ்வொரு கண்ட்ரியுடைய பாஸ்போர்ட்டுக்கு ஒவ்வொரு பவர் இருக்குது அப்படின்றத உணர்ந்துக்கிட்டோம். எந்த கண்ட்ரியுடைய பாஸ்போர்ட் ரொம்ப பவர்ஃபுல்ன்றதெல்லாம் உணர்ந்துக்கிட்டோம். அப்போ அதை நான் இப்போ ஷேர் பண்ணேன் வந்திருக்கக்கூடிய ஸ்பீக்கர்ஸ்ட்ட. ஃப்ரான்ஸ் கண்ட்ரி, ஜப்பான் கண்ட்ரி, ஹாங்காங் கண்ட்ரியுடைய பாஸ்போர்ட்ஸ்லாம் ரொம்ப பவர்ஃபுல். தெர் இஸ் நோ கொஸ்டின் அட் ஆல். தே கேன் ட்ராவல் டு எனி கண்ட்ரி அட் எனி டைம் வித்தவுட் கெட்டிங் எனி விசா. ஸோ அப்போ ஒரே ஒரு சொல்யூஷன் தான். let us take this globe as one country. நம்ம எந்த விதமான டாக்குமெண்ட்டுமே இல்லை இல்லையா, there is no boundary அப்படின்னக்கூடிய ஸ்டேஜ் என்னைக்கு வருதோ அன்னைக்கு தான் இந்த ரெஃப்யூஜி அப்படின்ற ப்ராப்ளம் சால்வ் ஆக போகுது. ஸோ ஹோப் தட் திஸ் நேஷ்னல் செமினார் paves the way for so many youngsters to share their views on this refugee writings, homeland, exile and subjectivity. I congratulate the research department of English and all the organizers, faculty members and for the arrangement of this particular national seminar. Congratulations, sir. So sir has pointed out many futures of their research department of English, but I wish to mention here one special point. Every year 2 to 3 students of this particular department, they are regularly clearing the national eligibility test, UGC net examinations. After clearing these examinations, the students are turned up into the faculties of this particular department. Here is Dr. Khalil sir. Then our student Captain Balsa sir is here. Fazila is here. So this department is giving an opportunity for the students to clear the examinations and to become the faculty of this particular department also. Thank you one and all for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful presidential address. We are so delighted to have our executive member of the college managing committee, Al-Haj Nasser sir. He is very busy. Amidst his busy schedule, he is with us today. We are so happy to have you, sir. Now I request our principal, Lieutenant Dr. s.muthamil sir, to honor our executive committee member, Al-Haj Nasser sir, to honor him with a memento, please, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for having made us happy with your grand presence. Now it's time for felicitation. I call upon Dr. S.M.A. Syed Muhammad Khaja, the Vice Principal of Unaided Programs, to felicitate the function. Please, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent and most benevolent. Respected Principal of our college, Dr. S.M. Abdul Qadir. Respected our executive members, Mr. Muhammad Nazir. And respected head of the Department of PG and Research Department of English, Dr. Muhammad Hanif. And respected resource person of this fine occasion, Professor Dr. Kishore Ram. And respected our former director of our college, Dr. A. Abdul Qadir. And respected faculty members and head of the department of our college and faculties from neighboring colleges and the student friends. Today, first of all, I convey my salam to one and all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and very pleasant good morning to one and all. Today, the Research Department of English arranged a wonderful one-day national seminar on the refugee writings, homeland, exile and subjectivity. Definitely, this topic is an important one in the current scenario also. And it's also an immense pleasure and honor I stand before you today to extend my heartfelt felicitations on this momentous occasion. This gathering serves as a testament to our collective commitment to exploring the profound narratives woven by those who have experienced the complexity of the displacement. As we delve into the intricate tapestry of refugee writings, we embark on a journey that transcends borders, inviting us to empathize with struggle, resilience, and diverse perspectives of those who have sought refuge. The theme, the homeland, exile, and subjectivity, encapsulates the multifaceted nature of the refugees' experience and encapsulating the profound connection of the one's homeland, the challenges of the exile, and the intricate layers of subjectivity that shape individual narratives. Through this seminar, we aim to unravel the richness of these stories, fostering a deeper understanding that transcends cultural, the linguistic, and geographical boundaries. Our distinguished speakers and the scholars have dedicated their expertise to shed light on the intricate nuances of the refugees' writings. Their contributions promise to elevate our understanding of the human experience in the face of displacement, inspiring thought provoking that resonate beyond the confines of the seminar also. I extend my sincere gratitude to the organizer, participants, and the who played a pivotal role in making this event into a reality. And Dr. Hanif, your collective experience and efforts have created a platform for the intellectual experience and exchange and meaningful dialogue, fostering a space where the voices of refugees can resonate and be acknowledged. May the discussions held today ignite the spark that continues to illuminate the path towards the empathy, understanding, and advocacy for the displaced people. Let us carry the insights gained here into our communities, fostering a culture of compassion and solidarity. And I extend my sincere thanks to the organizer of this one-day national seminar for this will be a beacon of the enlightenment and inspiration for all those who engage the discourse of the refugee writing. And I extend my warm wishes to all the participants in this seminar. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you so much, sir, for your apt and appropriate felicitation. The most appreciable thing with our vice principal is that he always attends programs, seminars, conferences by ardently and meticulously preparing for the program concerned. Thank you so much, sir, for your appropriate felicitation address. Now, it's time for releasing the abstracts. I request our organizing committee to take the abstracts. The abstract, please. I request our guest speakers and all the members on the dais to release the abstract, please. The abstract of the national seminar is released. It contains 63 articles from various colleges. The research scholars, professors have contributed for this book of abstracts. Now we also Now we also would like to release a poetry collection titled Life's Lessons, authored by Mrs. Professor S. Hadija Fazila, Assistant Professor of English. Please come on to stage, madam. It is a book. The title of the book is Life's Lessons. It is published by the renowned publisher Shanlax, the international journal. Now it's time to honor our guest speakers and delegates on the dais. I request our principal, Lieutenant Dr. S.muthamil sir, to honor our keynote address speaker, Dr. Kishoram sir, with a memento, please, sir. Now I request Dr. S.M.A. Sayyid Muhammad Khaja, the Vice Principal of Unaided Programs, to honor Dr. Bhupati. Dr. Bhupati is a renowned speaker from the Tamil Nadu Central University. Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Kishoram sir to honor our principal with a memento, please. Our Kishore sir honors our principal with a memento on behalf of this national seminar. Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Bhupati sir to honor our Vice Principal, Dr. S.M.A. Sayyid Muhammad Khaja sir, with a memento on behalf of the national seminar. Please, sir. I request our executive committee member, Alhaj Nasser sir, to honor our former professor of English and the director of our college, Dr. A. Abdul Qadir, with a memento, please, sir. Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Kanna Muttaya to honor our controller of examinations with a memento, please, madam. Now I request our resource person, Dr. Kishoram sir, to honor Dr. S. Khalil Ahmad with a memento. Please, sir. Our Professor Khalil was awarded the highest doctoral degree by the Bharadas University in the recent past. He is honored by our resource person, Dr. Kishoram sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now it's time for the keynote address. On behalf of the organizers, I invite Professor Dr. Kishoram, Professor, Postgraduate Department of English, NSS College, Pandalam, Pathanamthitta, Kerala. Please, sir. Here comes Dr. Kanna Muthaya, the Deputy Controller of Examinations and the Professor of English of our college, to introduce our resource person, Dr. Kishore Ram sir. Please, madam.
Good morning to all, and a very warm welcome to one and all present here. Distinguished guests, honorable delegates, esteemed colleagues, professors, faculty from neighboring colleges, scholars, and my dear friends. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker of this session, Dr. Kishore Ram, Professor, PG Department of English, NSS College, Pandalam, Pathanamthitta, Kerala. He was awarded with a PhD on the topic Subversion as Narrative Mode in the major novels of Joseph Heller from the University of Kerala, and he is a recipient of UGC Research Award in 2015. He had did his 2-year postdoctoral research on topic The Reification of Desire, a comparative study of select queer cinemas of India and Europe. It was a UGC funded program from Kerala University. Sir has 19 years of teaching experience at university, college level, and he has received research grant from American Studies Research Center, Hyderabad, now OUCIP. So a good head and a good heart are always an adorable combination, but when you add to that a literate tongue or pen, then you have someone very special, and it is our keynote speaker today. And he was one among the 22 talented writers selected worldwide for the first ever University of East Anglia creative writing workshop held in the year 2013. He had served as an assistant professor, Faculty of Arts at Al Fateh University, Tripoli during the year 2009 and 10. Being an ardent researcher, he had guided 5 scholars with PhD, and he is an approved research guide at University of Kerala since 2010 and has produced 4 PhDs. And he is an approved research guide at Bardiyar University, Coimbatore, and he had produced 1 scholar under that university, and he is a vibrant member in Fellowship Committee, Kerala Chalachitra Academy, and his English novel manuscript titled Death Know Nothing was included in the Bangalore Lit Festival, and he has signed a contract with India's top literary agency, the Writers' Side. He has also published 3 books titled Postmodernism in Indian Literature and a bouquet of short stories for Kerala University, and Ecoscapes for again University of Kerala for BA, BCom and BSc students. He has served as an invited speaker at various capacities in national and international seminars and conferences. And Sir has delivered keynote addresses in various UGC sponsored to national and international seminars. He has also given invited lectures on topic Third Cinema at BJM Government College, Chavara in 2015, and research methodology at Maharajas College, Ernakulam in 2015. And he had attended a lot of international seminars and national seminars, and he has accomplished a minor research project on world cinema today in 2010 and 2011, and the amount sanctioned was 1,50,000. He has also served as an editorial board member for a peer-reviewed internal Journal of Literature and Aesthetics, and being a member of a Royal Society of Literature London, one of the most reputed membership. And he has served as a subject expert for FIP interview at University of Kerala during 2012 and 2014. He had been a subject expert for interviews at colleges under MG University, and he had also served as an external examiner and an adjudicator for PhD Open Viva for Bardiyar University, Madurai Kamaraj University, and Calicut University. He has served as an examiner and question setter for Kerala Public Services Commission and a question setter for PhD coursework for University of Calicut and University of Kerala. He was a delegate at International Film Festival, which was organized at Goa in 2009, and been a delegate at International Film Festival Kerala during 2001 and 2021. And he had acted as a resource person at Academic Staff College Madurai Kamraj University, and also has acted as an IQAC coordinator for his college, MMNS College, a former college where he worked in Kottayam from July 2021 to November 22. So we express our warmth and gratitude for accepting our invitation today. Thank you for honoring us. Your presence has illuminated this event, making it much more special. And may I now solicit Dr. Kishore Ram, PG Professor, PG Department of English, NSS College, Pandalam, Pathanamthitta, Kerala, to deliver his keynote address on the topic, Literature Without Borders, Understanding Migration Through Narratives. Sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Khanna, for this excellent introduction. Actually, it is because of her that I am here. I've known her for almost 3 or 4 years now, and it's a great pleasure to be here. So, Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullah barakatuh. Okay, and so honorable guest sitting on the dais, Dr. S. Muhammad Hanif, Dr. S.M. Abdul Qadir, Dr. S.M.A. Said Muhammad Khaja, and all the other important people sitting here, and also before me, very warm good morning to one and all. And I hope that I'll be able to do justice to this paper. And today, one of my students who is now doing PhD, she asked me after seeing the brochure, what is actually your area? Because some days ago you were talking about queer literature. Then you spoke about water crisis some months ago. Then about postmodernism, film studies. So what exactly is your area of research? I replied, everything. Because as research scholars, we should know something about all the areas, especially about refugee literature, environmental issues, gender issues. So we have to we should be able, after some time you will experience this, so you should be able to cover all the areas that are taught in literature, that come under literature and also outside. Actually, I was also the editor of the special course that was disaster management. So people often get confused that I am an expert in disaster management also. This is because of the kind of vast reading that we are able to do, that we will be able to speak about all this topic. So today, curiously enough, there was in the Guardian a news that I think is related to our topic. That is, a detained asylum seeker wins Australia's richest literary prize. His name is Bruce Buchanan. That's quite interesting. And so I'll just read through it. The winner of Australia's richest literary prize did not attend the ceremony. His absence was not by choice. Bruce Buchanan, whose debut book won him the 25,000 Australian dollar non-fiction prize at the Victorian Premier Literary Awards and the $100,000 Victorian, no, 100,000 Victorian prize for literature on Thursday night is not allowed into Australia. The Kurdish Iranian writer is an asylum seeker who has been kept in purgatory on Manus Island in Papua New Guinea for almost 6 years. First, behind the wire of the Australian offshore detention center, and then in alternative accommodation on the island. Now his book, No Friends But the Mountain, composed one text message at a time for within the detention center, has been recognized by a government from the same country that denied him access and locked him up. And the writer said that it is a paradoxical feeling. So this particular writer, Barus Buchani, is detained in Papua New Guinea, not allowed to enter Australia. He is seeking to get refugee status there, but he is not allowed. And he won this prestigious award given by government. This quite appears kind of a great message to people who deny entry to people from other places where they are threatened with or threatened due to political issues, or maybe even due to economical issues. They want to move from one place to another. Then again, another problem that we find is the environment issues, which forces people to move out of one country to other. And quite interestingly, in India, and we are going to likely to face that environmental crisis soon. That means some places, especially places like Kerala, is going to go under the sea soon because of the rise in water level due to global warming. And this is going to be a huge threat for us, because people will have to move out of their familiar space to seeking asylum in other places because of environmental crisis. So with all these things, let us come to some discussions about literature and refugee writings and migration also. So I'll start with A.S. J.J. Bola, refugee from Congo, and he writes eloquently. So he says that the art in this context, the act of holding up a mirror to validate the experience of the refugee, to make the refugee feel more human, present and alive, is through literature only. And his poem Refugee very eloquently narrates how nostalgia is stored in the mind of a refugee. So we have to think from the refugee perspective, and this J.J. Bola, Congo writer, eloquently states in his poem The Refugee the real problems faced by the refugee, and I will read it out and try to explain some of this. Imagine how it feels to be chased out of home, to have your grip ripped, loosened from your fingertips, something you so dearly held on to, like a lover's hand that slips when pulled away. You are always reaching. So imagine when you are holding on to something and suddenly that thing is ripped away from your hand, just like a lover's hand. You are holding to a lover's hand, and that hand that is ripped away from your hand, pulled away forcefully. That is the condition of a refugee. So whatever they held dear, it got ripped away from their hands. My father would speak of home. See, now nostalgia, reaching, speaking of familiar faces. Girl next door, who would eventually grow up to be my mother. The fruit seller at the market. The lonely man on the top of the road who nobody spoke to. And our house at the bottom of the street, lit by a single flickering lamp. So all these things my father recollects and talks about. Talks about the girl next door. Talks about the fruit seller at the market. Now imagine your place. Imagine your place. If you want to understand the state of the mind of the refugee, you have to imagine your place. You find lots of familiar spaces are there near your place, in your village. So you have a marketplace, you have a particular seller of sweets from whom you buy, a seller of flowers from you buy flower and put it on your head. The temple, the mosque, the church where you visit to pray, the hospital that you go, the doctor that treats you, all these are images that will be inside your mind. Imagine you are pushed or pulled out of from that environment and put in a new one. Immediately you will start missing all these things. And you will miss the familiar tea, the familiar temple bells, the prayer from the mosque. All these things you will start missing. And that is what happens in the case of a refugee.
if you are going to a different country to work, all these things you will miss, but you can return to it. But as far as the refugee is concerned, the refugee can never come back. So J.J. Bolo very beautifully through this poem Refugee highlights the mental state the refugee is experiencing. And refugee literature opens pathway for recognition through defamiliarization. We explore how these literary texts disturb our world by focusing on their capacity to refigure, reform, revolutionize, and their effect on readers to acknowledge that there are fresh ways of knowing that which we think we know already. So we think that we already know many things. The refugee problems that we come across are told to us by the media, by newspaper, television, and through other sources we read, but we don't experience them completely. So that is where the refugee literature opens pathway for recognition through defamiliarization. And we understand the world of the refugee in a new manner, something which we think that we know, something which we understand in a different perspective. We are told it in a new way. So that is how refugee literature opens up pathways for understanding refugee problem. So we experience certain things, but refugee literature, refugee narration, refugee narratives, all these things bring it before us in a different manner. And one more thing is that in refugee literature, it also lends itself to extraterritorial readings, something that is beyond the territory, since it defines places of departure as much as places of transit and arrival, and is likely to be engaged in subverting natural linguistics and literary borders. And in a way, this term refers to unconventional ways of literature, prompts us to pause and reconsider, demanding a cognitive and imaginative readjustment. It's a journey, according to Lindsay Stonebridge, into the, quote, ethical turn in literary studies, a realm where emphasis on responsibility and obligation has grown significantly in recent years. Dr. Agnes Woolley, lecturer in translation, literature and migration culture at Birkbeck University of London, and her major research has already been carried out exploring literature and culture related to migration. And she speaks about forced migration and displacement. She advocates the perspective that refugees are not metaphors of rootlessness, but socially situated subjects. Furthermore, we find Dr. Woolley challenging the conventional categorization of refugee literature and national framework. Instead, she argues that it resists easy assimilation into any national literary clarification. This resistance is particularly evident in her observation that refugee literature does not neatly conform to the narratives of national literature. Dr. Woolley sheds light on the intricate nature of borders in refugee literature. Contrary to the post-colonial perspective of interstitial space fostering creativity, she asserts that in the context of refugee experiences, borders represent poignant encounters with, quote, danger and death. This perspective adds depth to our understanding of the multi-phase dimensions of borders in the context of migration and displacement. So what did Dr. Woolley actually say? Now we are coming to Dr. Agnes Woolley. I first quoted her. She said that refugees are not metaphors of rootlessness, but socially situated subjects. So, and she also said that we cannot categorize refugee literature under national framework. That was said by Dr. Woolley. So the same person, Dr. Agnes Woolley, said that refugee literature cannot be framed under one national framework. Look at refugee, for example. Refugees, they leave their native country and go to another world, or they expect to reach some place. They set out maybe in different ways. Usually we find boats and sea provide easy space for them to travel, but very dangerous. When you put a child on the boat, they are not quite sure that the child will reach a place, so they expect to go someplace. So we cannot say that the refugees belong to a particular national literature framework. That's what not my argument, but Dr. Agnes Wooley is pointing this out. She is lecturer in translation, literature and migration in Birkbeck University of London. So she points that we cannot classify refugee literature into one particular nation because it is spread out. It's huge. It always depicts two things. One is the place that from which they departed and the place that they aim to make their country. So we cannot say that actually refugees can be framed under one kind of a particular kind of nation. So we can say Sri Lankan refugees, Syrian refugees, but when they go to settle down in Canada or America, and then the identity will be Syrian Canadian refugee or something like that. So we give different names, but when we focus and study refugee literature, we understand that refugee literature cannot be framed into a kind of particular kind of national literature. Thank you. So that's what Dr. Agnes Wooley is trying to establish. And again, she talks about spaces, interstitial spaces, which is the narrow path where the refugee finds identity. It is not there and here, but that narrow path. Maybe it's just like the writer that I mentioned who is spending his time in Papua New Guinea but winning an award in Australian government award. So like that you will be placed somewhere in between two places where you have no identity. You cannot be called a person who is, the term will be asylum seeker. So you will not have an identity there. You don't know what the future holds for you. You have only memories of the past. You have only expectations, dreams, and in between that you are living. So we find from the post-colonial perspective, we will find that border is something different. But in the case of refugee literature, it is, I quote from Dr. Wooley that it is a border represents poignant encounters with danger and death. So border is not something that offers comfort to the refugee, but it is something that offers threat, danger. What is going to happen after we cross the border? Our honorable principal was talking about his experience in Hong Kong airport, where the Indian passport carries no weight. Okay, you go there, you have to have different papers with you. You have to carry all the papers with you. When I was coming back from Malaysia, they asked me where is the entry visa paper. It's not relevant, but still they wanted it. So anyway, luckily I had it in my pocket. I thought that it was not required, so I crumbled and kept it in my pocket. So I gave it to them, then everything was okay. By the time the flight will be about to start. So we face lots of difficulties. Similarly, when we are entering a border, we think of the refugee entering a border without a valid passport, or what will happen when you are a refugee? If you are a refugee, suddenly because of some kind of violence in your state, you are moving out, and if you are lucky, you will have some ID card with you, or passport, or Aadhaar card, and we have to take it. And we try to escape to another country. There, maybe you are taking, like in that famous novel, Boat People by Sharon Bala. We find that Sri Lankan refugees are trying to escape to Canada in a boat. So one person, he has all the documents ready, but even though he has all the documents ready, he is taken to prison immediately. On landing, he is taken to prison immediately, and his son is separated from him. So huge paperwork. You have to stand in front of an officer with lots of paperwork trying to convince them and trying to get this permit to be an asylum seeker. That is a horrible condition. And even when we go to work in Gulf countries and other places also, we face the same thing. We have to carry papers and go with. So that is why Dr. Agnes Woolley says that borders are actually not places which offers comfort, but with the danger and death for a refugee. Then we have this Hoda Barkat, a Lebanese author and novelist. In her novel The Voice of the Lost, she asks a number of questions that go to the heart of cultural responses to refugee crisis. How well can, I'm quoting, can we ever know people who have lived through civil wars? How much can we ever really know about the violence and destruction, the losses, the devastations, the overpowering fear they must feel every day? So that's a very good question. How well can we know the problems or the kind of experiences that they are facing every day? Can we really understand how they are transformed? Which things change them inside it and which things harden? Can we really understand? Barkat experimental responses to such questions is to fashion her text using letters. So in her novel, she presents everything in the letter form. So she writes, there are incomplete letters written by people and addressed to people in their home country. So first part is unfinished letters. Then the second part written by unnamed refugees. Then it is sent to recipients. And in the second part, we find that the postman is going to different places to locate the address, but he finds nobody there. And the novel ends with a postman who wonders, what do you do when homes and houses have been destroyed? Who do you write to? What address do you use? By presenting this, she reveals the horrific situation of the refugee. So imagine, you have to imagine something, because we will not be able to understand it even by reading or listening. Imagine that you are writing letters to people, but the letters, when they arrive at the destination, what will happen is that the postman fails to locate the persons to whom the letters are addressed to. And this is really troublesome for the postman, because the postman is not able to locate the address to the address. So he is quite confused. And in this way, when we look at these things, we understand the real problems faced by the refugees in their day-to-day life. And here we find Anna Bernard's statement very effective. She says that refugee literature serves as both an advocate for aesthetic innovation and a political project. So that is the relevance and importance of refugee literature according to Anna Bernard. So it has two purposes. One is aesthetic innovation and the other is it becomes a political project. Why? Because it is an aesthetic innovation means it will give us a kind of aesthetic pleasure by reading, experiencing all these things. And at the same time, it is also political because it has also the objective to reveal to people the crisis faced by the refugees, what crisis they are facing in their homelands, and what kind of life they are leading in the place that has given them asylum. So this dual purpose of these writings expands our understanding of refugee writing. And refugee literature disrupts our habitual responses to migration and refugee experiences, urging readers to engage in more deep understanding of such writings. Here we find the quotation by Claire Gallion very accurate. See, she said that refugee literature is not confined to writing solely by refugees. It encompasses the publications of former refugees, turned residents or nationals, fostering experimental engagement with forms, genres, languages and national literary construction. So, in a way, we find that refugee literature is not written by refugees alone, but also past refugees. From their experience, they write lots of things about their experiences and things. So, what is the need for refugee literature? We'll look at this. See, empiricists contribute demographic studies about refugees. To our understanding of refugees, they contribute a lot. Then social scientists offer factual analysis and diagnosis about refugees. Historians provide the essential historical context, and legal scholars situate refugee narratives within international law. But it is the fictional writer who crafts imaginative narratives, and they strive to deepen our comprehension of the refugee situation by explicating the nuances embedded in the lives and the critics. They express the meaning of what these people have written in their literary text to make us understand the real situation faced by refugees. So, even though we have everybody there, social scientists are there, democratic studies are there, then historians are there, financial, legal, all these people are there. But through them, we will never be able to understand literature. I mean, the refugee crisis, it can be understood only by reading refugee texts, understanding their problems by reading their poems. Now, let us see another perspective. How to view refugee crisis as a literary scholar or a literature student. So, while approaching refugee literature, painting, photography, we should be mindful that what we look at are not real people, but what we are looking at is figures or pictures. Sorry. What we are looking at is not real people, but we are looking at figures. This is the way to appreciate literature. See, look at, for example, we find the picture of a Sri Lankan child dead body of a Sri Lankan child being pulled out from the boat. Or read the story of an African refugee in Carl Phillips' A Distant Shore, or some other experiences. See, this should not arise as a problem for us, literature students. We, literature students, cannot solve the refugee problems, or we cannot help solve the political crisis in their countries. What we get here is to make us imagine. But this is what we get here is a chance, an opportunity to understand refugee crisis. So, to make us imagine refugee as people with histories, relations and desires. So, when we are seeing the picture of a child or a dead body of a child being pulled out of the sea, or when we are experiencing the lives of characters through literature, through novel, through paintings, through films, we should not worry about their problems, but we should think of this as an opportunity to understand the crisis of literature, and we have to make this as an opportunity as critics to introduce this problem through different analysis and other things to the public, so that they will get a clear picture of how the mind of the refugee works through these literary texts. Now look at, for example, when we are reading a list of names of refugees, because we don't have refugee camps here, or when we see them on the news, on television, walking around London, Canada, other parts of the world, we only see strangeness in them. We only look at them as strange people. We don't recognize them. We don't realize. We are indifferent when we read list of people who have come from Sri Lanka to some part, or to Canada, or we look at some other Afghan people going to Oman, or something like that. So we are quite indifferent. We don't understand them fully. We just look at them. See it as only a list. Then if you are seeing them in the television, in the news, we see them only as part of the news. But when you are reading it in literature, when you are reading poetry, when you are reading fiction, when you are seeing a cinema, you experience them. You experience the refugee. What is actual problem of the refugee, understand. So that is the most important thing about refugee literature, and how literature can bring forth the problems of refugees to the public attention. And this will, of course, see, for example, the Australian government awarding that award to that particular writer who is seeking asylum will clearly bring out a message to people, or I think it will shame the Australian government for denying such a person entry. So this is how the power of literature, that's what I am trying to highlight in this paper, the power of refugee narratives, which will shatter the concept of borders and will make people understand that the minds and the lives of people who are refugees are similar to us. And there are poems which I'll talk about, which will discuss the possibility of all of us becoming refugees. There was a very interesting book here, I think. Yes, Viet Thanh Nguyen. This book, The Refugees. The same author. He fled Vietnam with his family in 1975. And he notes the most important thing we should never forget was that we could never forget. The most important thing we could never forget was that we could never forget. We could never forget what happened to us. So that's a very important thing. We can never forget things. So in another novel, in The Displaced, Nguyen holds that since displaced people are unwanted where they come from and where they come to, they risk becoming unremembered strangers. This is where the work of writers become important, especially writers who are refugees or have been refugees, if such distinction can be drawn. That was a quote. So he takes the refugee identity very seriously. I remember all these things because I do not remember them, and write them down, then perhaps they would all disappear. I cultivate that feeling of what it was to be a refugee because a writer is supposed to go where it hurts, and because a writer needs to know what it feels like to be another. A writer's work is impossible if he or she cannot conjure up the lives of others, and only through such act of memory, imagination and empathy can we grow in our capacity to feel the other. This is a writer's dream. And so this is what Viet Thanh Nguyen says. So he says that a writer has to go to places where it hurts. Writer has to show what hurts. If we look at our cinemas, the cinemas won't hurt. They only show the overused topic of love, campus love, love in the bus stand, all these things, parks. but they won't go and show the reality of a refugee. They won't show the reality that people are suffering. So only the writer has the responsibility to go to places where it hurts. They have to depict, then only they will become writer. So if a writer's work is impossible if he or she cannot conjure up the lives of others, and only through such acts of memory, imagination, empathy can we grow in the capacity to feel for others. So that is the duty of the writer. That is what he establishes in the displays. Only the way in which you can actually depict or you can show that you are a writer is by picturing the sufferings of others, by going there and understanding. I met at the Hindu Lit Fest a person who went to a war-torn country and his wife divorced him. But he said, and then the question asked by Stanley Johnny, the interviewer, was, how do you take this? Your wife divorced, you have a daughter and your family, and you spend your time in some African country where a huge war was going on. And they were saved only because one of the persons captured by this local army was an American citizen. Otherwise, they would have all got killed. So that is the thing our principal was talking about, the identity or the value of the passport. Just because there was an American citizen in the group, they were all saved. Otherwise, they were all going to be killed. He said that I saw death before me. Then the question is, your wife divorced you. Then what is the message to your daughter? Then he gave a very good answer, which I partially remember, that my daughter will understand the sacrifice I made. Okay, and I am quite sure that my profession, which is that of a journalist, requires great commitment and great sacrifice, and family is one such thing. Okay, so that was a good kind of a commitment that is shown. You have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice. As a writer, you have to sacrifice. You have to go and see where hurt is, where injury is. Then only you will become a writer. That's what our Viet Thanh Nguyen, Vietnamese refugee, says. Then again in Nguyen's The Sympathize, there is a clock depicted. A clock which has the shape of Vietnam. For the clock was a country, and this country was a clock. That's what he says. So it was crafted by a craftsman in exile. And this is exactly the timepiece his refugee countrymen desired. We were displaced persons, but it was time more than space that defined us. So it's not time, it's time that defined us. While the two kinds of times, while the time from see, when you go abroad to work, I was in 2 foreign countries. So whole time we have 2 times, not just one. Our home country time and the place where we are working, both are there. So when I work in Tripoli, I know that it is 3.5 hours behind Indian time. When I worked in Muscat, it was 2.5 hours behind. And when I went to Malaysia, it was 3.5 hours ahead of our time. So all the time we are conscious. I always had a watch that showed Indian time, and also another watch which showed the current time. Okay, so think of the refugees. They always have this, the time they left and the time they are in. Okay, so this clock, symbolically carved out by a refugee, symbolically depicts the time zone of the refugee, and it is kept in a cafe. So this question is, first question was always, when can I return to that time zone? That is the question that always occurs in the mind of the refugee. When can I return to that time? So, and he says that refugee, exile, immigrants, whatever species displaced people are, have 2 cultures. One, the culture of their homeland, and the other, the culture in which they have sought asylum. and displaced people also lived in two time zones, here and there, the present and the past. So their refugees are like time travelers. They travel from one time to the other. So all this experience cannot be understood by us, but only people who have worked abroad will feel a bit of what I am trying to say, or what Gwen is trying to say. So past, present, that time zone, this time zone, where we are aiming to go, what we were. So all these things are there. Three time zones are there: what we were, where we are, and where we are trying to go. So this is always there. This moving between time from backward to present, again to the future, though, and this describes, or this communicates a message that all these refugees, they are like the clock moving in circle. We are going in circle. So this clock depicts the plight of the refugees and their confusion and their plight not being in a particular time zone. Actually, we are very lucky people sitting here. We are in a time zone. We know, and our time is, there's only one time for us. Okay, but think of the refugee, the past, the present, and the future. What things are like. So time moves in a circle for them. Now, there is a very interesting theatre studies by Joe Murphy and Joe Robertson, which is called The Jungle. And it is actually a play written by them. And there is a place in France called Calais in France, which borders the English channel. So there, migrants are made to stay in that camp, and they are seeking asylum. Their main aim is to go to UK. Okay, and their plight, their condition, it is depicted very beautifully in this theatre studies. In this theatre performance, The Jungle, in which most of the actors are refugees. And it got lots of awards, and it offers a challenging insight into the effects of government policies and sensationalized media narratives about who a refugee is. So when the refugee was played on the theatre, see, look at this picture. Beautiful. Sorry that I cannot display it very well. But we find from these pictures, we find the plight of the refugees being well pictured in theatre performances like The Jungle. The Jungle thrusts at the audience a question of whose responsibility it is to help the displaced resettle. What is the solution? I think Dr. Bhubadi will say something about the solution for refugee problems. I think that already he has said that in the previous talk. Okay, so he will continue. So we are talking about the Calais refugees and migrants kept in the camp known as Jungle. So they tried to escape to UK through the channel, and the problems that they face: death. Of course, the English channel is not friendly. So death that they face, how somebody lives from one place to the other, and how refugee problems are pictured through theatre, because theatre is a very effective medium to communicate. And we understand that through theatre, we will be able to lively perform the real condition of refugees. See, to say the example of that, how effective theatre is far better than cinema, you have to imagine the scene in which Desdemona is killed by Othello. See, imagine you are watching it in the movie, you will find sound effects will be there, Desdemona screening will be there. But I happened to see a video of a theatrical performance in Globe Theatre, performed in Globe Theatre. And when Othello is trying to kill Desdemona, she says that don't kill me today, kill me tomorrow, all those famous lines are. But the way in which he strangles her and the way she reacts, she howls and shouts and throws up her legs, and the audience also participate in this. So they also cry out, women cried out, and lots of audience contribution to this performances can also be seen. So this is how theatre performs. So when this refugee drama, The Jungle, is performed before an audience, they get a clear picture of what the refugee crisis is. That is the power of theatre, similar to the power of poetry and other things. What's the time limit? Is it okay? 5 minutes. Okay, I only 5 minutes. And I have a lecture for more than 1 hour, so I will come to the conclusion soon, because otherwise it's already 12:30. Okay. So I'll cut short the presentation and bring. Okay, though I have 6 or 7 poems to discuss, I will just say this poem. I will pick out the best poem for you. So Benjamin Zephaniah has written a beautiful poem. We can all be refugees. Nobody is safe. All it takes is a mad leader or no rain to bring forth food. We can all be refugees. We can all be told to go. We can be hated by someone for being someone. So in this small passage, he highlights how we can all be refugees. We can all be refugees, nobody is safe. All it takes is a mad leader. A mad leader can create problems. A mad leader does not mean the mad leader of the country, but a rebel can create problems. Then again, the next issue, no rain to bring forth food. Environmental crisis. You can be a refugee because of environmental crisis. We can all be refugees. We can all be told to go. We can be hated by someone for being someone. We can all be refugees. Sometimes it only takes a day. Sometimes it only takes a handshake or a paper that is signed. We all came from refugees. Nobody simply just appeared. Nobody is here without struggle. And we should, and why should we live in fear of weather or the trouble? So in this poem, Benjamin Zephaniah highlights the crisis faced by us who can become refugees if we are not careful. India is a democratic country, and but nowadays we find that lots of issues are being created, and these issues can lead to internal conflicts if we are not careful. So we have to, by studying or by conducting such seminars about refugees, this college is doing a great thing. This department is doing a fantastic thing, because it communicates the great message that we have to uphold the message of tolerance given by Mahatma Gandhi. That means if you don't have tolerance, we will hand over this country to some tyrants. So it is only by tolerating people, it is only by tolerating people of different beliefs that we can uphold the freedom that we got. Otherwise, we will all be refugees. So with this message, because of lack of time, I conclude my keynote address. And thank you, wonderful seminar great work by the department.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful, insightful lecture on literature without borders, understanding migration through refugee writing. It was really very, very useful. Your distinction as to be an alien, an expatriate, and a non-resident was very, very useful. Thank you so much, sir, for explaining the plights and predicaments of the refugees in your own way. Thank you so much. We are so honored, we are so delighted to have our professor, former head of the department, Dr. s.muthamil, amidst us. Sir, your presence makes us so happy, and you, the stalwarts, our Dr. s.muthamil and Dr. Abdul Qadir sir, they paved the way. We are traveling on it, sir. We owe a lot to both of you, sir, our stalwarts of the Department of English. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. Now I request our head of the department, Dr. S. Mohammed Hanif, the convener of this national seminar, to honor our professor, Dr. A. Nahmatullah, with a memento. Please, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Now we have the plenary session 1. We are going to have a lecture by Dr. Bhubati, Assistant Professor, Department of English, English Studies, Central University of Tamil Nadu, Thiruvarur. Please, sir. I request Dr. S. Khalil Ahmed to introduce the resource person, Dr. Bhubati, sir. Please, Khalil, sir.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. I deem it my immense pleasure to introduce the resource person of this plenary session, Dr. Bhubati, sir. Dr. Bhubati, sir, is an illuminating resource person, and he is working as an assistant professor in the Department of English Studies, School of Social Sciences and Humanities, Central University of Tamil Nadu, Thiruvarur. His research interests include disability studies, Palestine and West Asian literature, post-colonial and resistance literature, and life writing studies. For his doctoral research, completed at the FLU, that is the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad, he studied the identity construction of Palestinians in the life narratives written by the Palestinian refugees. Prior to his appointment at the Central University of Tamil Nadu, Thiruvarur, he taught at Aligarh Muslim University for 3 years. He has published an impressive number of articles in journals and edited books that are of international repute, and presented research papers in conferences both inside and outside India in his areas of research. His research works have been published by renowned international publishers like Peter Lang, Routledge, and Routledge Journal of Life Writing. He is one of very few scholars in the area of disability studies in India to introduce a specialized course titled Disability Studies and Literature to master's students of English literature. He is a member of the editorial review board of International Journal of Whole Schooling, published by the University of Michigan Press. To his credit, sir has been conferred the Nath Award of Eminence in the year 2018. His specialization and research interests are Palestinian literature with doctoral research, and a few publications and paper presentations have been done on that. West Asian literature with paper presentations. Paper presentations have been done on West Asian literature also. Disability studies, life writing studies, post-colonial and resistance literature. These are the areas of his specialization. So without much ado, I would like to request Dr. Bhubati, sir, to enlighten us with his insightful lecture. Please, sir.
Respected principal of this college, Abdul Qadir, sir, and head of the Department of English, Dr. Mohammed Hanif, sir, and former heads of the department, Nagadullah, sir, and Abdul Qadir, sir, and the resource person, who came along with me, who delivered the keynote address, Professor Kishore Ram from Padanampita Government Arts College, Kerala, and heads of various departments, faculty members of Sadakathuallah College, and participants of this seminar, national seminar, research scholars and student friends. Good afternoon to everyone present here, and I'm really happy to be part of this one-day national seminar and deliver the talk on the topic Children on the Move, Border, Citizenship and Transnational Identity. So before I get into it, I just want to express my happiness. I never realized that my lecture at the Pondicherry HRDC Center would result in national seminar. So thank you so much. I'm really humbled and I'm very happy that because it was a 3 hours lecture. I thought participants would be bored by my lecture because on refugee literature, there's something, because this is a very one side it is an important literature, and the other side, this sort of writings are popularly taught by the the elite faculty members in the English department in various universities in India, are disrupting the aesthetic quality of literature. So I'll come back to it a little later. But I'm very happy to say that your college has sort of initiated a discourse intervention on this most known but most untouched area, because the refugees crisis, all of us know, every day we read it, because at least from October 2023 onwards, we have been witnessing what is going on in Gaza, right? And even before that also, till 2009, we know that Sri Lankan conflict. But somehow we kept ourselves away from discussing such writings in our classroom, in our seminars, in our workshops, and of course also in our refresher and orientation programs. But there is a certain amount of, I would say, epistemic neglection. We have epistemically neglected this topic due to various reasons. Probably these writings are politically charged. These writings, as I already said, disrupting, as it is popularly taught by faculty members, some of the elite faculty members in various renowned universities in India, the aesthetic quality of literature, right? So in that sense, I guess your college has really initiated this discourse in the college level, and particularly in South India, because I particularly see it as this is one of the pioneering conferences to engage with this these sort of writings. So my congratulations, my appreciation. As I said, I'm really humbled that my friend Dr. Khalil Ahmed took inspiration for my lecture and sort of organized it. And also I'm really humbled by the hospitality provided by the English department when in his welcome address and the introduction to the theme of the seminar, Dr. Hanif sir, very humbly he said that Dr. Khalil Ahmed came to pick me up, but that shows his humbleness, but I must acknowledge that he was also along with him. So in a way, someone head of the department waking up at 3 o'clock, coming to receive at 4 o'clock in the railway station, that's something that is really remarkable and really, really appreciable. And it shows the kind of, commitment towards hospitality and the warmth with which they look at how they receive, the delegates and the outsiders. I was really happy. My parents were with me. They were also very happy, to sort of been received by Dr. Hanif sir and Khalil Ahmed sir and all of them. So I thank you once again for the hospitality. And the third thing that I want to talk about, about the one of the very important noticeable features of this department is that so when Hanif sir was listing out the 13 national seminars that they have organized in the last 12-13 years, so people if you have listened to it, you would have understood that how the department in a way progressed epistemically to keeping in pace with the developments of the department, because we in the English studies often see certain amount of intellectual abrogation, certain amount of intellectual deviations from the mainstream focus of our department. So when we say we are in the English department, we work on refugee writings, we work on disability writing, we work on transgender, we work on queer studies, we work on feminist studies, we work on food narratives. We literally work on everything, right? So people are working, so in our department there was a proposal on looking at plants in Tamil cinema, right? So in that sense, our department, because of the cultural turn that took place in the 1980s in the West, after 2010, English departments, at least in India, throughout, in various universities and colleges, witnessing a rapid epistemic shift, accommodating the intellectual movements, political movements, socio-cultural, economic conditions that are prevailing throughout the world, particularly in the global south, that is in the eastern countries. So in that sense, I think the 13th seminar, organized in various periods, in a way brought out the particular intellectual movement prevalent in that particular period. So in 2016-15, they organized a seminar on biography, life writing, because that is the time in which life writing was gaining its momentum. And in fact, when I started my research in 2014 at English and Foreign Language University on Palestinian refugee narratives, I was told that why I am doing this research in English department, I should do it in sociology department. But today you see you have a national seminar exactly almost like 10 years later on refugee writing. Right? So that is the beauty of English department. We accommodate every intellectual development happening in not only English department, but also in the sociology, in the disciplines of sociology, anthropology, political science, history, so on and so forth. I think in that sense, this department is really doing a wonderful thing in terms of, offering new knowledge that is actually in a way mostly discussed in the university level, in the college level to UG and PG and PhD scholars. I think that's a very important thing. I really wish your department offers an elective course at least on refugee writing, refugee literature. Last year I started in Central University of Tamil Nadu, and it was well received. When I was working on this paper, that is making the syllabus, I realized that no university in India offers a course on refugee writings. It's something that they discuss in, let's say, international relationship, the departments of international relationship in Pondicherry University, Jawaharlal Nehru University and other things. They discuss in law department because it is part of international law. They discuss in sociology because they look at migration. But they don't look at it in English department. The writings, autobiographies, as Kishore Ram sir very clearly made my job easy because he has given you various aspects of refugee writing. But how do we look at the mushrooming of writings, refugee writings, coming from various quarters of global south? I'm very carefully wording the word global south, that is to refer to eastern countries, because there is an inherent European, Eurocentric, white-centric politics in that, in terms of starting the refugee center in Oxford University in 1980s. I'll probably, if I get time, I'll talk about it. But, so in that sense, discussing or offering a course, having a deliberation on refugee writings in the English department is paramount important, because if we don't talk about life narratives, poems, films, as Kishore Ram sir, to the end of his talk, he was talking about theatre. Refugee theatre is also very powerful. Recently, we had a workshop on in our English department, theatre of pain. Refugee theatre is called the theatre of pain, right? Because it once again in a way was propelled by a very famous theatre movement called oppressed theatre. Right, so the theatre of pain, refugee, people, they enact their life stories in the form of autoethnography. That is to say, they are in a way, they have a story. Their story is of their own life, and they also in a way reflect upon it critically to make it as a play. How their life can be presented as a performance. And so much so that it actually in a way not only enlightens people, but also makes people in a way realize the other side of the world, right? So I think in that sense I'll I'll get into the my talk today. I have when Dr. Kathir called me to be part of this seminar, I was actually working on a chapter for a Routledge companion on gender and childhood. So I was working on the paper called Refugee Children and Gender. So I thought, okay, I'll talk to you, I'll talk about refugee children, how they are on a constant move, crossing the discourse of citizenship, border, and transnational identity. So the words are little, loaded contextually, culturally, socially, and politically. I'll try and unpack them in the course of my talk. But why did I choose refugee children? There's a reason behind it, because whenever we talk about, first of all, we hardly talk about refugees in the English department. That too, whenever we talk about it, we only talk about refugee adults. If you have observed in the recent Israel-Gaza war, almost 30,000 people on record have been killed, out of which half of them are refugee children. Children, right? A poor children who didn't know what was going on, or even what is going on in Gaza. Completely northern Gaza, the north side of Gaza has been completely erased. Almost south side also, recently also you would have seen, there was, I don't think any other place in the world where people get killed for getting food. The recent 3 days back, you would have seen it in the newspaper, Hindu brought out the editorial on it, that when the food packets were thrown from the helicopter, people were gathered, lots and lots of innocent Palestinians gathered to collect the food packets, because they hardly have, let's say, 2 meals per day, right? And in the stampede, almost 120 people on record in a way have been killed, right? After that, by looking at this stampede, Israel mistook that these people have gathered to attack Israel army. They started gunfire. In the gunfire, again 100-300 people have been killed. And so much so that Israel went to the only hospital that was actually functioning, which hosted hundreds and hundreds of dead bodies and hundreds of people who have been wounded in the war. Israeli soldiers went into the hospital, started open gunfire. Right? So what I'm saying is that the point of course we have to pity them and all these things, but what we need to critically understand is, in the course of last, let's say, we've been having the refugee crisis in the world from First World War, right? Even before that, there were a lot of things, but at least from First World War onwards, we have been having, in the last 100 years, we had so many refugee crises, and one of the largest unrecognized refugee crisis is India-Pakistan partition, right? And if you read this narratives, partition narratives, you'll understand that people walked hundreds and hundreds of kilometers because they were told that you are on, let's say, Muslims were told that you are on Hindu side, and Hindus were told that you are on Muslim side, right? So they walked hundreds and hundreds of kilometers, and you can think about, if you've been to North India, you will understand in the month of May, June, July, 40-45 degrees Celsius, they walked without, having even a cup of water in their hand, and they went to the extent of drinking their own urine, when they were feeling thirsty. And some of them, like if you, let's say, in the Pakistan side and the Punjab side, they have lots and lots of mango trees. And some of them plucked the mango fruits, they got the juice out of it and drank it as a water. And also one of the, the worst the sufferers were children. So, but it is not recognized as a refugee crisis because the first, the UN Convention on Refugee Crisis, as Kishore Ramsa was talking about, it is 1951, for the first time, United Nations brought out its Convention on Refugee People. In the 1951 Convention, it will be a knowledge for you that India even now is not a signatory of Refugee Convention, because of which we could not accommodate this Rohingya Muslims. Because of which, even now, let's say, our friends in Tamil refugee camps in Tamil Nadu, because they are not able to, let's say, naturalize themselves, have a citizenship of, what you call India. So, but we started, we use euphemisms. We say that this is not Agadigal Mugham, this is Maruvalva Mayam, right? Whether it is, you call it Maruvalve, Veruvalve, whatever it is, but what they are having is actually a empty life, right? Because morning they had to sign, when they come in, they had to again, let's say, put their signature, and they had to register their presence, right? So only a refugee would know what it would be like living in this thing. So in that sense, last 100 years, if you look at it globally, the world has witnessed a severe refugee crisis. But our India-Pakistan partition was not, even now is not considered as a refugee crisis, because when United Nations intervened, then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru said it's an internal problem, we'll deal with it. When thousands and thousands of people from Indian side were moving to Pakistan for fear of their life, what United Nations Convention calls it as refugee, as the person who lives with the well-founded fear of persecution due to economic, social, cultural and political fear, who can be called as refugee, right? So when thousands and thousands of people went, to the other side, especially in the eastern Punjab, Jawaharlal Nehru went in person and he said that, please don't go away, please don't go out of a country, we will accommodate you. But where are the houses? What is the kind of surety that India would actually give to those people who migrated to the other side? Because people were in fear, right? Similarly, in 1971, Bangladesh crisis also happened. Lots and lots of people, in a way, came from Bangladeshi side to Indian side, right? So when Pakistan partition happened, religion was the issue. When Pakistan-Bangladesh partition happened, language was the issue, right? So, but whatever may be the issue, whatever may be the what you call the reason behind refugee crisis, the worst sufferers are the innocent people. Not the innocent people, and also most importantly, the most vulnerable among the vulnerable refugee population is actually children. Half of them, you take any refugee crisis globally, be it is this Cold War, like between Russia and America, that actually in a way created a huge refugee crisis in Europe, that led to the European universities to start Center for Refugee Studies. For example, Oxford University started in 1980, Center for Refugee Studies. We had a problem in India, we had problem somewhere around the same time, Palestine, 1948, the state of Israel was established, with the Zionist movement started toward the end, from the end of 19th century onwards, with a single motto that land without a people is for the people without a land. We are the Jews without a land. Palestine is a land without a people. Therefore, it belongs to us. Right? So that was the motto with which Theodor Heuss started Zionist movement to the end of 19th century. That in a way led to the huge movement, Zionist movement in the 20th century, and British mandate which was there for 30 years from 1918, from the fall of Ottoman Empire till the end, 1948, Israel as a state was in a way established. The movement actually, when it was started, only 30,000 Jews were there in 1918, but 1948, 30 lakh Jews actually settled in Palestine. Right? So the crisis, even now it looms large in terms of Israel-Gaza war. So the point I want to say here it is, I want to primarily look at refugee children because their condition is really in a way miserable as compared to refugee adults. I'll be talking to you how it is miserable, what kind of this agency less, what kind of identity less, what kind of absolute insecurity with which they live their life, throughout the world, right? So from 1980s onwards, refugee crisis in the global south, in the eastern countries, gaining the attention of academia, not just academia, but the international bodies, international organizations like Red Cross, particularly UNHCR, because UNHCR came up with the two important things. One is United Nations Relief and Work Agency, UNRWA, that is exclusively dealing with the taking care of these, Palestinian people. There's another one called United Nations Work Agency, UNWA, that is taking care of rest of the refugees, like the other refugees coming from other, Middle Eastern countries or West Asian countries. From 1980s, as I said, the world, particularly the international organizations, started in a way focusing on the crisis of refugee crisis happening in the global southern countries. As a result, a lot of international aids actually came to the rescue of people. And you'll be very surprised to know even Edward Said is also a part of this, someone who actually benefited from this, international thing, because he is a Palestinian, and after that he moved to Lebanon, and after that he moved to USA, right? So in his book, The Out of Place, he very exclusively talks about his autobiographical life, right? So in a way we find that refugee children, the children who are affected by the refugee crisis were not taken into consideration till, shall we say, 1996. Why I am saying 1996 is that because in 1996, United Nations, constituted a committee to look at the crisis, the various issues faced by children throughout the world, particularly in the, global southern countries. Why United Nations thought about it? Because in 1989, for the first time, United Nations in general came out with United Nations Convention on Rights of Children. You can clearly understand, only in 1989 United Nations started thinking about children. Till that time it was very silent, and it was only looking at this other rights and all these things. But refugees were also till 1996 they were seen as single group, that is like a single sort of a uniform group, particularly constituting adults. What about children? And what about their issues? So in 1996 it constituted a committee, and the committee headed by one particular person, and she sort of looked into the various issues faced by children. She traveled to Sudan, she traveled to Afghanistan, she traveled to Palestine, she even went to Sri Lanka and all these countries, and they sort of submitted the report. The report is very much available online. It's a very long report. So it looks at various sort of issues. One of the very important thing it says that when we say a refugee is a person who lives with the well-founded fear of persecution, according to 1951 United Nations Convention on Refugee definition. What about the children? Because as we know, children who actually in a way sort of, who have various psychological issues, various social issues, various cultural issues, various educational issues, and above all, they also have their gender orientation. How all these things were in a way taking place in the life of children who were torn between, let's say, homeland and exile, right? So, in fact, it was a very early study in 1996. After that, UNICEF also in the beginning of 2000 took up this issue to explore into the this condition of refugee children. They also in a way made a very detailed study, and they also found couple of things. One of the very important things that was that is noticeable in the two reports. One is the UN report, second is the UNICEF report, is that a large number of refugee children who are unaccompanied, because as you know, refugee population has three different groups. One is the IDPs, internally displaced persons. Second is those who live in exile, refugee camps, outside their homeland, in the neighboring countries or any other country. Third is people who are asylum seekers in the industrial countries. Here the industrial countries refers to the Western countries, right? So, but even in the internally displaced population, within the homeland, the population, as Hanif sir was saying, it is constantly fluctuating. It's constantly moving from one place to another place. It is not stable. If you look at the most familiar Sri Lankan example, right? They were constantly moving because they don't know, as this Muhammad Darwish, very famous Palestinian poet, wrote in his autobiographical prose poem titled "Memory for Forgetfulness." You can look at the title, Memory for Forgetfulness. It is the record of his life in Lebanon, that is Beirut, the capital city of Lebanon, in the refugee camp, on August 6, 1982, when Israeli army completely raided with bombs and cells that particular refugee camp of Palestinians. One day a record. So he is like waking up in the morning, having an hour of coffee, and listening to various threatening, bomb sounds, selling sounds, and he is not able to. He wants to document this experience. He is not able to write it because he was not sure next moment whether he will be alive or not. Right. So that sort of situation. Think about children. The parents are actually killed, brothers are killed. Their siblings were actually also killed. Sometimes children, they would have lost their parents, they would have lost their elderly brothers, elderly sisters, and they will be moving simply by themselves on the road, and they were also shot dead. I'm reminded of this Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, in 2014-15. So when this Gaza war once again happened during that time, that time it was a little minor war compared to this time. It took almost on record 2,500, 3,000 people's lives. And when he was asked, why did you kill more than 500 children who were studying in the school, Netanyahu replied that today's victims are tomorrow's perpetrators. So don't think that they are children. Tomorrow they will become the perpetrators. Right? So that is the intention with which not only Israel, any sort of this power holding countries operate. Be it is any, for example, think about what is going on in Yemen, right? So what actually happened in Vietnam. Right? So also think about what is going on in Ukraine, right? So all this crisis, I'm sure a lot more crisis will happen in the future, because once again you see Trump emerging as the most potential candidate of Republic Party. Right? You see and the same guy when he was the president, he banned people from 7 West Asian countries to enter into America. So you see that the entire world seems to be moving towards creating more and more refugees. So very soon, 1/3 of the world population will become refugees. One or the other way, either in terms of political crisis, or in terms of economic crisis, or in terms of climate crisis, climate change, right? But these 3 things are happening in an utmost worrisome way, with absolute sort of very fast way, right? It's something like these 3 crises are looming quite large. And how do we look at children in that refugee crisis? That's what I said. One of the very important, noticeable thing among these 2 children, among the 2 reports. One is by UN report. Second is the UNICEF report. One was brought out in the middle of 1990s. Second was released after the post-millennium, especially in the beginning of 2000 by UNICEF. In 2 reports, they look at the 3 different population of children: internally displaced, children in exile, children who are the asylum seekers. One of the very important category that they found, which is the very largest category among refugee children, is the children are unaccompanied. That is to say, they have lost their parents, or their parents decided to send only their children. Because what actually happens is that sending children, you would have noticed in the Syrian crisis, very most importantly, because that's a very important live example. Because to send children to let's say migrate from Syria or any war-torn countries to European country, because which is seen, those countries are seen as this safe haven, because Germany was accommodating lots and lots of people. Canada particularly, in fact, Canada came out with the particular policy to cater to the intersectional identities among the refugees, right? But they had to sell out huge amount of money, because they can only be taken by a smuggler in the illegal boat from one country to another country, particularly to Europe, as morning one of the speakers was saying. So some of them actually, sometimes the boat actually sinks. Sometimes because they carry, if the boat can contain only 200 people, 400 people are taken into the boat by the smugglers, and they pay 5 times more than the actual amount. That's how it happens. Because if let's say someone has to migrate or escape from Syria to European country, any of the European countries, particularly to Greece or any other country, they had to first go to Turkey, and from Turkey only they can actually take the illegal boat, and that will drop them in the any of the nearest European borders. But what happens in the borders is, for example, very recently Greece has built very huge wall in the border, stating that henceforth we are not going to allow any refugee to enter into our country. That is the stand taken by most of the European states. Why? Because these people, as the European states say, these people are liability among, especially on our economy, right? Because you can see most of the European states, mostly they say, very proudly they say that our unemployment rate is less than 3%. If we accommodate these people, if these people start, in a way, get into our country and let's say start doing these, the works of, our own people, our people will lose their job. Not only that, most of the European countries actually after 1990, particularly after the advent of globalization, changed their perspective towards the government, or in terms of running the government, from welfare state to capitalistic state, in which even everything, healthcare, education, everything is a costly affair, right? So how they look at these children, particularly these refugees, because they look at these refugees as economic burden, social burden, cultural burden. Because what happens recently in France, and particularly in France and Germany, is that these refugees bring different cultural identity. They say that their cultural identity also should be recognized. I think now the serious problem that is going on in France is, the France government banned veiling, covering the head. People from Middle Eastern countries, women, they want to cover their head. What actually happened in Karnataka, right? So they want to cover their head, but France government said, no, we will not allow you to cover the head because that is in a way affecting our cultural identity. So they started the movement like reveiling, and the counter movement was like unveiling, right? You see, the one side it's also refugee. They also in a way see it as a cultural threat, economic threat, social threat, and above all political threat. And because of this, children who are mostly unaccompanied, they are exploited by smugglers, and they are also exploited by the security forces in the borders because they harass them, they ill-treat them, sometimes they rape them also. Because female children, in many cases, like it has been documented by in both in UN report as well as UNICEF report, many of them have been raped. Many female refugee children have been raped. And on the other hand, quite unfortunately, these refugee children are forcibly abducted into military forces. They have been given guns to shoot, right? Because they are seen as immediate adults. If you look at because we have a childhood studies, a very different discipline. Studies invest more on looking at the psychological, social, cultural, development of the child, how it gradually happens from infant stage to childhood period and young adult, a young adult period, the teenage period. It looks at everything. But in the case of refugee children, the moment they lose their home, the moment they lose their homeland, they are seen as adults, without being realized, right? Because in most of the stories, if you read it, like lots and lots of stories also recently coming up, like they especially Palestinian people, they document lots of stories of refugee children, right? And they in a way sort of Ramsey Barod, a very popular Palestinian person, scholar. He is also running Palestinian Chronicles, a very important online magazine. He very frequently brings in a lot of stories of news reports and stories of Palestinians. In his book The Lost Earth, he is actually talking about, he has in a way collected 8 stories of Palestinian people that include women also. One of the stories, right? So he says that that story in a way talks about how the young girl is actually in a way harassed by Israeli army because they want her to accept that she was the one who threw the bomb. She was the one who actually did certain things. So somehow you see how forcibly making someone as criminal who is not actually part of it. And see also in the beginning of the story, the girl, Muslim girl who comes from the school, on her way to the school she sees her own friend, 14-year-old boy being shot dead, lying on the floor, lifeless, right? And that in a way affects her own psychological state, right? So in a way the point I want to make is, the first important category is large number of people are unaccompanied, large number of children are unaccompanied, both in the internally displaced population and also particularly in the refugee camps. In the internally displaced population, in front of their eyes, they see their sisters being raped, their houses being occupied by someone else, the intruder. They see their fathers have been arrested, their brothers have been forcibly in a way killed by the army. So they undergo a lot of psychological in a way turmoil that remain as a what you call everlasting trauma in their mindset, right? So they later period they document all these stories. In the refugee population, that's again a very important thing, they are forced to stand in the long queue to get the food. right? They are forced to, let's say, go for very, very meager, menial jobs outside the refugee camps. And when they go outside, out of the refugee camps, they are actually in a way harassed by people in the host country. That's how many refugee narrators, they actually they document. For example, Fawaz Turki, very famous Palestinian writer, he wrote a book titled "The Soul in Exile," where he is talking about how he was harassed by the local people, right? So they also undergo that sort of harassment, and on top of it, the most important thing is they lose their education. Let's say the child was doing 5th standard in the homeland. When the child is in a way forcibly taken to the refugee camp, be it is in the internally displaced group or internally displaced camp, or in the exile place, the child is forced to discontinue the education because it's complete setup. Think about, you are doing, let's say, you're studying in Tirunelveli, all of a sudden you are taken to Sri Lanka and you have to continue your education. What will happen? So the school education is completely affected, and in spite of that, I think it's very important to note it, in the entire Middle Eastern countries, Palestine people are those who have largest literacy. You see, from 1948 onwards, Palestine has been a very war-torn country, but in spite of that, they make well use of UNRWA, United Nations Relief and Work Agency, and they maintain huge literacy, highest literacy among the West Asian population. And more interestingly, many Palestinians who made well use of this UNRWA agency, and they got a fellowship, went to the USA, went to European countries, UK, and now they work as professors. You go to any European country, any US universities, you will find minimum one Palestinian working as professor. To that level, they make well use of it, and that is the, in a way, sort of a reason why Edward Said, wrote a very important book called "The Question of Palestine," because through, I think that's an important, his Palestinian identity in a way forced him to sort of, rather made him realize the situation of Eastern people, and that sort of made him understand. One is, of course, the how our knowledge is actually suppressed, that he is talking about in his book Orientalism. But in the Question of Palestine, he exclusively talks about Palestinian issue. What actually confronts Palestine? I think Kishore Ram sir was saying, I would give the solution to Palestinian problem, but I don't think even Joe Biden would do that, because that's the problem, because we cannot give solution, right? The same America, you see the hypocrisy of the world. The same America which provoked Israel-Gaza war, distributing foods in its air, this army helicopters, like in the 2 days back, throwing food packets in Gaza, right? And that's why one of the writers in the book titled Arab Spring, he said, for America, I quote, "It seems Libyan oil is thicker than Palestinian blood." Right? It seems Libyan oil is thicker than Palestinian blood, because all they want is the prophet. Who bothers about the lives, innocent lives? Right? And they will provoke the war. They will also distribute food packets. They will also lead peacemaking process, peacemaking committee. Right? You see the kind of thing. So, in a way, one of the, as I said, unaccompanied, children. And another important thing is child soldiers. Many, especially recent days in childhood studies, they started talking about refugee children. But what they do is, they only look at child soldiers. Recently also, Introduction to Childhood Studies, there's a book. In that one, there is a chapter on, refugee children. But when you get into the chapter, you feel like the writer is only talking about child soldiers. And of course, child soldiers, particularly from refugee children population, are more in number, because they, in a way, sort of, are forcibly abducted, as I said earlier, into the military, and they are given out guns, and they are given weapons. They are forced to stand in the front lines, counter the opposite military troops, thinking that if children stand with the gun and other things, the opposite army will be in a way silent, they will not attack more. But what is happening on the other hand is many children die because they are forcibly abducted into the military. They are forcibly made as refugee, in a way, what you call, basically child soldiers. So that is a very important, in a way, aspect of refugee children, and couple of, it is not actually in a way recorded, written by the refugee population, but many sociologists, many social scientists, political scientists, they have actually documented this thing. It's all actually an ethnographical document. And also this UN report, UNICEF report, both the reports actually in a way talk about the plight of child soldiers. So that's something that we need to look at it as part of our discussion on, let's say, refugee children. And more importantly, this idea of citizenship, I think that we need to actually understand, because as our principal sir was talking about the passport, because passports, especially after Second World Wars, passports gained paramount significance because of, let's say, creating borders, right? So passports are needed as the valid document to enter into the borders. Not just borders, but also prove our citizenship to one particular country. Let's say if you could understand the way in which the passport getting process, okay, so fine. In the way in which passport getting process actually happens, you will understand, because people will the police will come to our neighboring houses, will invest, will actually sort of inquire about us, how actually what is our character, what kind of family we are in. So from that process till the process of letting you inside one particular country, right? Everything is actually in a way related to borders, because border is something that is in a way creating citizenship, border, both are actually equally important, because we cannot understand citizenship without border, and same is the case with the vice versa, right? So in the case of children, they let's say at a very young age itself, they lose their homeland, they go to another country as refugee. When they live in the refugee camps, they are left with no other option but to live as a permanent refugee, because they cannot get their passport. Think about let's say a Palestinian, or think about, let's say, Syrian people, like Syrian children, right? So they go to refugee country at the age of 14 or 15, and we cannot, let's say, expect everyone to have a passport. And even if you have the passport, let's say Syrian passport, think about Indian passport itself is put into so many problems. Think about Syrian passport, Palestinian passport, and obviously it will not be considered as a passport, mere collection of papers, right? Because the country has a lot of problems, right? So in a way, citizenship, something which is which we take it for granted, because when we lose the homeland only we realize the importance of having a citizenship, because it is validated through simple bunch of papers, passport, and the borders, because in the border forces, if you read, because we have a separate discipline called the border studies, also citizenship studies. In border studies, they talk about how border regime is operating. They use the phrase called the border regime, right? So you find some people will be standing in the border, putting you into unnecessary investigation, seeing you as criminal, right? Trespassers of borders are seen as either terrorist, extremist, or criminals, right? So in that sense, like what European countries recently they started doing is that instead of receiving refugee people into their countries, they invest a lot of money in the homeland to create amicable environment for them, conducive environment for them. So I guess that is again creating, let's say, once again internally displaced population, not giving any solution to it. So I will very quickly talk about the last idea of this transnational identity, asylum seekers, because this is something that's very important. It's a very long sort of process. We have in refugee we have like 3 or 4 categories whom we actually put them under refugee category. One is the of course stateless people. Second is internally displaced population. Third is people who live in exile. Fourth is asylum seekers. Asylum seekers are those who actually go to the industrial states, that is European, global northern countries, western countries, go to the borders, apply for asylum. There are 2 things. One is the illegal migrants, second is the asylum seekers. Asylum seekers, they had to put in application, they had to sort of convince the border forces that they are the real refugees, they are in real threat. In the case of children, what happens is, children are not recognized as asylum seekers because they are not adults. They don't have any document to prove themselves, because as I said, most of the children, out of let's say 60 to 70% of asylum seeking children are unaccompanied children. They don't have any sort of a thing. So they are simply in a way left to the mercy of border forces. So what happens is, sometimes they are given asylum along with the adult. That adult may not be known to them. If the adult dies, that particular adult dies, let's say children X is given, let's say, asylum with the by making guardian of adult Y. If the adult Y dies, what happens is, this children X will lose the asylum, will lose the identity in the particular thing, will lose the permit, and that child will be seen as illegal migrant. So this is how it happens. So most of the refugee children's writings today, we have number of texts, particularly literary life writing. There are two set of life writing. I'll just very quickly talk about it in 2 or 3 minutes. Then I'll wind up, let's say, by in another 3 minutes. It's already 1:20. I realize that. I'll just very quickly talk about 2 categories of writing lives. 2 category of life writing by refugee children. One is the text, the life writing text authored by, let's say, adults, by recounting their childhood stories and memory. What they use is collective memory. Second is, we use a term called co-writing. Co-writing is, what happens is, UN High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, which has branches in so many countries, more than 150, 160 countries, they employ some writers to document the stories of these children. So what they do is, they will listen to these children in their own language, and they will create the stories in English of these children in the form of life writing. There is a story called The Girl from Aleppo, Nujim's story from war-torn country to freedom. This is actually a Syrian, this is the story of Nujin Mustafa. She is a Syrian girl. And the interesting thing about this girl is, she is on a wheelchair. So she escaped from Syria, that is Aleppo, very far, one of the important cities in Syria, to Turkey, right? And her sister actually pulled the wheelchair for her, because she is she cannot walk on her own. She is a disabled child. And from there, through illegal boat, by paying excessive money to the smugglers, she went to Germany. She almost crossed 7 to 8 countries. Her story was documented by a European journalist, because someone in the border was inspired by looking at this, a child on who was a refugee on a wheelchair, crossing so many countries, especially crossing Mediterranean Sea, right? Because Mediterranean Sea has taken so many lives of Syrian people. So, and that story was co-authored, because the journalist who listened to the story of this girl in Arabic and later converted into a let's say autobiography of the particular girl, Nujin Mustafa, by doing co-writing for her. But in the case, in most of the co-writing texts, what happens is the West is portrayed as the savior. That's what the problem. Once again, white savior narrative. What we talked about in post-colonial studies, getting global recognition because it is only the West can save these people. Right? It is the West which is provoking the conflict, but it is the West which can save. You read any let's say autobiographies of refugees, particularly from West Asian countries, you will understand the end of the story. The Western countries will be portrayed as the saving country, the life savior. Right? So like that, you find so many examples, of refugee children. I guess it is important to, in a way, also pay attention to refugee children, not just refugee children, female refugee children, disabled refugee children. There is an in humanities and social sciences, we talk about the term called the intersectionality. Please don't, the final statement is, please don't look at refugees as refugees. Refugees also have female, refugees also have children, refugees also have disabled identity, queer identity, and most of the refugees are absolutely poor. Right? So you need to look at that identity also. That also partakes into the what UNHCR calls refugees are those who live with a well-founded fear of persecution due to socio-cultural, political and economic turmoil. Right? I'll stop it here. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Probably if there are any questions, probably one or two, if the organizers are willing, we'll take it up. Otherwise, we'll close it. Yeah.
Dear participants, if you have any questions, do ask. Here is our professor to answer your questions.
Of course, why not, sir?
Yeah, your lecture was fantastic, really. Sorry for my coming late.
No worries, sir. No worries. Yeah.
I could observe plenty of things from your lecture. And you focused only on You focused only on the predicament of the children, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
What made you focus fully on the children and their plight? Does it have any impact by way of your teaching, or you are so empathetic with the predicament of the children?
Yeah. So actually, I've been working in refugee writings in the last 1 decade. And I realized of late, in fact, I got a CFP from, it's on, there's a Routledge Companion on Gender and Childhood. So there was a CFP, and I we wrote a letter abstract, it was selected on refugee children and gender. When I looked at the CFP, I also, because I was off late in the last 2-3 years, whenever I read about refugees, I always, used to think, because half of the refugees are constituted by children. And if you look at the academic intervention towards understanding or exploring the plight of refugee children, be it is from social science perspective or legal perspective or from humanities perspective, it is primarily it's primarily based on psychological point of view. They're only looking at the psychology. They're only looking at, as I said, this child soldiers, very limited knowledge. That too from psychology or from sociology or from international relationship, that such disciplines invested very less on refugee children. But on the other hand, we have lots and lots of refugees. Let's say in the recent Gaza war, 30,000 people on record have been killed, 15,000 people are children. So what about their thing? How, can we still see them as refugee? I think that's an epistemic, we use the term in cultural studies called epistemic violence. When we see, when we, let's say, include refugee children also as part of refugee adults, it's an epistemic violence, because the problems faced by refugee children and the psychological turmoil that they undergo and the post-refugee crisis is something that is very different. So that time, in a way, when Khalil Ahmad sir, when he called me to deliver talk in this seminar, I was actually working on this chapter. I thought, why shouldn't I talk about it for the first time? Because all the time I talk about refugee literature, refugee writings, exile. I think this is something that is very important. Even from literature department, we need to invest more on looking at refugee children. So that's the...
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Bhubadi,
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I am Dr. Abdul Kathir.
Yes, sir.
I'm really very much impressed by your presentation, and you could very well bring us a vivid, live picture of what is happening worldwide in terms of the refugee crisis, and how come you could present the idea so coherently, copiously, blunting your emotions beautifully. It's a kind of the emotions, ideas collage and blend beautifully in your presentation. Yeah, it's a marvelous presentation. I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely.
Secondly, to ask you a very personal question, it seems you have been an avid reader, reading voraciously a lot of books, it seems, yeah. Otherwise, you could not present this way, yeah. And there is a slight impairment, short of sight, I think. You have it. But still, how is it possible for you to read as much? You read this to present a beautiful discourse today before our students. Thank you, first of all. Thank you very much for your presentation.
I think, thank you, sir, actually. So I use actually screen reading software called NVDA. It's called Non-Visible Desktop Access. It is exclusively created for people with vision impairment. I have been using computers since 2009. So I have a lot of books. I must say that blindness is a privilege for me, because I don't have to go to library and look at the books. I don't have to wait for the books. I can very well get the book, buy the books from Kindle, and lots of ebooks are available. So I don't have any issues in terms of reading. If you just give me a book, let's say if the book is 300 pages per hour, I can read 30 pages. So that's not a problem for me. So I do all my academic works on my own. I don't depend on anyone else. I just need people to move here and there. That in the familiar places, I actually move on my own. So that's the thing. So
thank you, Bhubadi sir. We are happy to note that two of the participants taking part online have questions. So I request you, sir, to read out the questions.
Please, yeah.
Actually, Sajda Khalid had posed two questions that are related actually. Can you please suggest any contemporary theories on refugee writings? And she also continues, has someone focused on intersectionality and refugee crisis? Any writers and theories?
Yeah. First I will say that there's a book called Literature with White Helmet, right? It is brought out by Routledge. I think 2019 it was brought out. It's an interesting book to look at it, where I don't think any single sort of a theory would be enough to understand refugee literature, because people bring in Judith Butler's precarious lives, people bring in Agamben's homo sacer, bare lives, right? And also vulnerable lives. There are lots and lots of theories around this thing, and also people bring in Foucault's concept of this disciplining bodies. Because particularly when we move out of, because we realize, as principals I was saying, because I have also been to two countries, one is Russia, another one is Poland, and that too, last 2022 I went to Poland when this Ukraine crisis was happening. I went alone. So in the border, in the immigration, they ask so many questions. Why do you travel alone? Where are you coming? Right? In fact, I went on an invitation. So, but the point is, there are a lot of actually in a way theories to sort of understand it, because these refugee studies is not a single discipline. I can't prescribe any theory, because again which perspective we use differs. When we say, let's say you want to work on refugee, let's say writings on refugee camps, that has actually, people also look at camp life as also a different thing. So we have a couple of books, but again those books, as I said, literature with White Helmet is a very important book, and also Oxford has come out with the this refugee studies and forced migration. It has so many, when we get into the book, we'll realize that so many areas that being listed there. For example, border, there are different perspectives. Children, there are different perspectives. Women, there are different perspectives. That's why I think, I don't think one particular single theory would do, but then going through the book literature with the White Helmet would perhaps orient the person who asked the question with the basic theories to start with, thinking about refugee predicament. And in the case of intersectionality, refugee and intersectionality, I must say, couple of works have been in a way produced in terms of gender and refugee, especially refugee women, right? In both in Sri Lankan context also in the Palestinian context, Syrian context. But in the case, there is one book called The Refugee Status of Disabled, very important book in a way that talks about throughout the world. In disability studies, we talk about accessibility. Let's say someone is on a wheelchair, someone is blind. Even during this, I think the recent Tirunelveli flood also would have understood, the most vulnerable people in any of the crisis, be it is climate change, be it is economic crisis, or be it is political crisis, are the disabled people. Because we want to save ourselves first. The recent thing also, Tirunelveli thing, and also throughout the world, disabled people are left behind because it's difficult to carry them. And not only disabled, elderly people also. That is the reason why, if you look at the refugee population, which is almost, let's say, 1,100 million or something, so those so many people, but out of which 80 to 90% of refugee population, let's say, excludes, let's say, elderly people. You hardly have 5 to 10% of elderly people, because it's all about our physical fitness to move, escape, because you never know, right? Even on your journey, you will be killed, right? So it only comprises children, that too from 10 to 16-year-old, not below 10 years old or something, because you have to carry them, right? And also, probably you can, let me phrase it like this. The 80 to 90% of refugee population has the age group between 10 to 50 to 60 or 65 years old. You can think about rest of the things, right? After 65, less than 10, right? So they are all excluded, because it's all, as I said, for your ability to run, your ability to move. And as I said, intersectionality thing, of course, women point of view has been looked at, and disabled point of view has been looked at. And more importantly, recently, couple of chapters I could see when I was reading books on queer and refugee people, right? This queer sexual identities and transgender people. Very minor research have been done, yeah.
There is another question, probably a query. 1 second. Jisha VG had asked, what are the steps taken by UNICEF and United Nations to take care of these refugee children?
Yeah, I think it's a very important question that would also make us understand the helpless nature of international organizations. You see, what is going on in Gaza is being time and again told by this United Nations to Israel. Very recently, South Africa filed a case in international court against Israel for doing genocide. What the international court said? Simply said, please try to stop the genocide. Please try to stop the attack. go for peace negotiation, right? And be it is UNICEF or UN, I think we realize it after, let's say, 2010 or something. They don't have much power, right? They can only suggest. You can look at the helpless nature of this UN General Secretary. He can only cry like us, right? He cannot intervene in anything. You see what is going on. Gaza, Hamas is saying they are literally killing us. Israel is saying it is a war of peace. You see, look at the irony. It's a war of peace. It's a war for peace. They say that, yeah, we are also trying to have a peace for which we are actually staging a war. And who is getting killed? Innocent people. And that is the plight. UN, UNICEF can only conduct research. They can only tell us what is going on, like a researcher, right? So they cannot do anything. We realize it. You look at the helpless nature of, as I said, UN General Secretary or International Court, right? I think our sessional courts are more powerful than the international courts. I think at least they can punish the person, right? So, yes.
Thank you so much, Bhubadi sir, for your effortless, brilliant, impressive speech. Through your speech, we came to know the realities, actualities, the existing conditions of the children of Israel-Hamas war. Thank you so much, sir. Now we break for lunch. Dear student participants, PhD scholar participants, you all have to go to hall number 36, 38 and 39 for having your lunch, for taking your lunch packets. We have made lunch arrangements for all our teacher participants, our guests, just behind this hall, behind this auditorium. Dear professors, guests, you can have it here. Okay. Kindly, the lunch packets can be heard in exchange of the token given to you. Thank you. We all have to come back here at 2 o'clock for the plenary session 2. It's online. Please. Okay. Vegetarian food is also arranged.